Here,
Pass
yes.
to
Okay.
Sandy.
Okay, then. So, good
Welcome, Anna.
afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ana Diaz. I'm the coordinator of the Green Circle project, and I'm going to present you the project in general terms. So, please, George, in this international webinar. George, please, next slide. So Green Circle is a project that is about micro-credentials in the construction sector. We are establishing a number of activities within the project for these micro-credentials quality assurance and ecosystem. So you have in this slide the link for the project, and we have this project is a 3 years project, began in December 2023 and goes until the end of the year, this year, November 2026. Next slide, please. So the main objectives of the project are to identify, develop, test, and assess the use of micro-credential in this particular sector of the construction sector in Europe. We have, next slide, please. We have 11 partners in this project. It is a forward-looking project, and we have three partners from Portugal, our interface of Minho University, TecMinho, then CEDEFOP, the Center for Training in Construction, and Casais, big construction company in Portugal. Then we have always these trios with in each country. So in Greece, we have University of Dut University. We have ACP, George Institution, and we have PEDMEDE, the Association for the Constructors in Greece. Then in Spain, we have Pontedeschi, University UNIR, and then Aranza, a company in construction sector. And finally, in Germany, we have two partners, one representing the companies and another one representing the vet school, Bau ABC in Germany. So we have worked together for these 3 years. Next slide, please, on this issue of micro-credentials in the construction sector. So in the first place, micro-credentials have been defined within European Council decision, and we have a number of ideas, let's say, where within these micro-credentials based on the European micro-credentials definitions. And the idea is to build up a number of small units of learning that are transferable and that are possibly used in the construction sector, but also in other sectors. So we build up an ecosystem. Next slide, please, where we have been working with a number of stakeholders in Portugal. We have meetings every 6 in Portugal and in the other countries, of course, in the whole consortium. We have been able to organize consultation as long as we are producing results. We start with the micro-credential strategy, a taxonomy, the quality assurance that we will present today, and the piloting of the courses, the micro-credentials courses. So within this consultation, we have been producing documents and producing knowledge to share and to be able to find this ecosystem and this implementation within any sector. Next slide, please. So the Green Circle micro-credential ecosystem that is very much focused, as I said, in the construction sector, as this core elements that imply a number of uses for learners, for teachers, for schools, for different kind of structures. And within the ecosystem, we have embedded the concepts like the qualification framework, the learning outcomes, and the assessment of the micro-credentials. So we understand this micro-credential ecosystem within the whole training and education ecosystem. Most important things within this ecosystem are the learning outcomes, qualification framework, and assessment in order to bring micro-credentials, small courses in a way that can be recognized by the different systems in Europe and the education and training area. So we defined also within the project this building blocks structure, trying to gather all the elements that we need to be able to transfer micro-credentials in between different European countries. And we need to have all these issues very clear in order to be able to, in European terms and of course in our national bodies for quality assurance, and to be able to have a unique European system where micro-credentials can be structured within the broader qualification framework. So having the awarding bodies, the national workloads for micro-credentials defined, the issuers, and of course the quality assurance that should be behind it and guaranteeing the quality for the companies and for the learners. So this is most important for European transferability of people and mobility, upskilling within the green skills also, upskilling and reskilling personnel in the construction sector, and having a unique system that can be used by vets and education, but also by companies and other stakeholders that work within the development of small courses in the upskilling and reskilling of the labor market in the construction sector. But this applies also for any other sector. Next slide, please. So this is what we have been doing and trying to understand and defining a unified taxonomy where everything comes together from the standardization level to the stakeholders' needs level. So, as you know, the green circle, the green skills are more and more needed, and personnel, it's not yet with all the skills for these green skills. So all these micro-credential courses can bring this possibility to upskill using a standardized way and the taxonomy that can be recognized by every European structure. Next slide, please. So we defined some dimensions to take in attention in one on this taxonomy, making equivalence to levels 3 to 6, make the coin, let's say ECTSs or CPDs or ECVETs as the credit equivalent, so the coin for the number of hours, etc. The outcome types, the learning volume, and the workloads and standardized workload, the assessment format, and finally the pathway function where the different pathways of learning can be come together in a kind of a grid where different green skills can be matching up a career pathway. Next slide, please. So in detail, just to give you a glance, the taxonomy defines a number of levels of classification. This is not prescriptive, it's a suggestion, let's say, from our project, and to be able to have this equivalence in a standardized way. And this is the most difficult, let's say, the most difficult part, because in each country different workloads are applied, and different number of hours for ECTSs, for instance, are applied. So there is a need for a standard and recognition by the sectors. Of course, the construction sector recognize this number of hours, but there is probably a need for a standardization more horizontal within the sector and within the national bodies for quality. Next slide, please. So at the moment in the project, we are, like I said, finalizing the project, and we have been working on the quality assurance development. George will present just in a minute the quality assurance for micro-credentials, and we are starting to implement these courses for piloting all the ideas behind the project, piloting the courses next September, and then developing a guide for the micro-credentials pilots, and how to work with all this system. And at the same time, we have along the project this dissemination work package, but at the moment we are preparing the piloting in the 4 countries, piloting micro-credentials courses using the quality assurance strategy defined and the ecosystem that we defined before. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anna. I'm stop sharing your presentation. How I stop share? I hate Teams. Okay. Now I'm going to my presentation, and I'm going to share my presentation. Luckily, I have 2 screens in front of me. Where is that? Just a moment. Share. I need to select the right window, which is, I think it's that one. Yes. And I'm going to share my presentation. Okay. Just to confirm, everybody can see the presentation, yeah?
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. That's great. That's great then. Okay. So, as Anna mentioned before, what I'm going to present today, it's the micro-credential provision and quality assurance for the reskilling project. Before starting, just to introduce myself, my name is George Bekiaridis. I'm the Director of Active Citizens Partnership, one of the partners of this project, and I was leading the WP4, the Working Package 4, which is titled the same way, and I'm going to present today to you the main the main findings and the proposal we managed to form of about the quality assurance and the provision of micro-credentials for green skills in construction. Okay. I have to. Okay, let's start. Before starting, let's be aware about all of us about this need. Green construction sector in Europe is huge. About 12.7 million people are working in construction, which is 6.1% of the total European workforce. So that means that is a critical pillar of European economy. Of course, we know that construction sector has high environmental impact. So there are a lot of new regulations, and it's a priority sector under the European Green Deal. What does that means? That there is a tremendous need for developing green skills among the people working in this sector. Also, there are some regulatory imperatives like directives like the energy performance building, and that means that there are more skills demand for people involved in this area of improving the energy performance of buildings. And of course, we know that the traditional system lacks. Traditional qualification systems are very slow and very bureaucratic, but the demand is today, and we need to move fast. And we think that micro-credentials is a good solution for that. So it's all of these needs set the stage that the Greek Circle project is very relevant. Of course, we are not solving the skills demand for the green skills in construction sector, but what we set the ground. What we are actually, I'm going to present today to you, I think it's a blueprint on how other companies, other educational institutions, other ecosystem in other countries can use this similar approach. Okay, so as I mentioned before, central objective is to establish a micro-credentials ecosystem for green skills in construction to support the green transition. This report is the main deliverable, as I mentioned before, of WP4, and it builds, of course, on an earlier technology and earlier steps in the project. If you remember the last slide of Anna, the project has a logical sequence. So we set the enabling framework, and then we explore the potential and how micro-credentials can be used in the construction sector, and especially for green skills. And then we develop this deliverable, which sets, it's a blueprint how to organize everything from technology and quality perspectives. And now we are starting to pilot test all together to see if it works, and to make any required improvements and alterations. So this 4.1 report is structured as a blueprint, okay? And we have those 5 dimensions for trusted micro-credential ecosystems. And we have organized into 5 distinct sections, each one focusing on a critical aspect. First is the section A, which is the technology choices. Which platforms and system to use for credential creation, management, and insurance. When we applied for this project, we knew that something, the European Commission is working on something, but we didn't have the final view. We knew that ETC is coming, but we didn't know how it looks, etc. So this has been made available and public during the implementation of the project. And then the section B outlines the quality assurance model, including the rules and technical architecture. Then we have the section C, which is also a very important part of the micro-credentials system, which is transferability and interoperability. For example, how credentials move across institutions, or even different sectors, or across national borders. Then we have the section D, which is the governance. It describes how establishing the authority and processes needed for developing and issuance of micro-credentials. And then finally, section E provides a practical step-by-step guide for issuing micro-credentials using EDC, European Digital Credential Infrastructure. Okay, let's move on. As I said before, we didn't know that EDC is coming. So, and we also wanted to explore different options. For example, how we can, what other options exist to understand, in order to create, to issue and validate micro-credentials. You can see here an overview and the criteria in the top, how we actually did the evaluation of the different systems. Okay, so we have technical compatibility, policy alignment, implementation complexity, cost, scalability, sustainability, and then all of those combined in an overall score. I don't think it makes sense now to go through each one of the systems that we analyzed. Just an overview: micro-ball framework, council recommendation, EMSI infrastructure, creating FI platform, and the networks of ENIC NARIC. You can see that the highest score was for Europass EDC, so actually that one has been selected to support us as a technical platform for our micro-credentials provision. So, as we have selected Europass EDC as our core platform, now we can see how it fits in our technology architecture. Okay, so we have actually, I'm starting from the bottom, which is the layer 1. We're using the core credential infrastructure, which is the European EDC platform. Okay, which is actually handles all credential issuance, storage, sharing, and verification. It's compliant with the W3C verifier credentials and also supports EIDAS electronic seals. That means it's electronically sealed and it's valid. Just to mention here, we tried to use to establish our own version of European EDC platform, which is an open source model offered by the European Credential, by the European Commission. We had some technical issues first. Second, the cost to support all of this infrastructure would be really out of the budget for this project. And then we decided actually to use the existing infrastructure in European Union server under the Europass, and it works great. Of course, we know now how, if someone wants to use it without using the European infrastructure and set it up alone, it's possible, but it needs a lot of technical expertise and resources. Okay, so then the layer 2 is the skills and competency mapping. Of course, we used the two main taxonomies. One is the ESCO skills taxonomy, plus the Green Competence Framework from the European Union. So all the skills are based on standards. It's not skills that we imagined or we defined, but skills carefully selected from those two frameworks. Then it's the learning management and delivery. This is upon now the for the partners, for the education partners of this project, that they are going to pilot test. Of course, some of them they are going to do it fully online, some of them face to face, some of them blended. So they can use their own learning management and delivery methodology. There is the option through APIs to connect with the ETC infrastructure, so automatically issue micro-credentials. And finally, is the last, but also one of the core elements of an ecosystem is the learners. And we have the learner portfolio, which is a personal digital wallet integrated in the Europass profile. We did a lot of tests through the development of that. We make a joke among us that there is Thomas, our friend colleague from Germany, from Baab, said that most probably is the person with the most micro-credentials in the platform, because we are testing always with Thomas. Yeah, that's the layer, the technology architecture we used. Then, building on the technology, we had to build a quality assurance model. We need to ensure that we are not just creating credentials from the technical point of view and issuing and sharing, etc., but these credentials need to be of high quality, because this is a very important part. So the quality assurance model directly operationalized the 10 principles from Council recommendation on a European approach of micro-credentials, published in June 2022. We also draw heavily from the Microball common framework, which provides guidance on how to apply ECTS, EQF, Diploma Supplement, and Lisbon Recognition Convention to micro-credentials. Microball common framework is coming from European higher education area, and because our project focuses on vocational education and training, levels 3 to 6. We need to adapt it a little bit in order to support our lower EQF levels in VET. And finally, we have the standards and guidelines from ESG 2015. Again, from European higher education area, which is we use it as a baseline for quality assurance across the whole micro-credential ecosystem. Okay, so how we ensure that every single credential meets those high standards? We have implemented a rigorous system of 7 quality gates that govern every credential release. No credential gets issued without passing through each of those stages, from initial design to post-issuance monitoring. First, we have the micro-credential design and approval. So we have, I'm going to show you later that we have a quality assurance board within the ecosystem, or it's a recommendation every ecosystem to have a quality assurance board where they reviewed the alignment with reskills, ESCO mapping, and industry endorsement. Next, we ensure that issuing body accreditation, or for example, only accredited organization, whether are VET providers or professional association, can issue credentials. So this ensures the validity that someone who issuing credentials is the one who can do it, because technically everybody can go and do it. And then also verify the learner eligibility, checking prerequisites and identity before enrollment. So this is that the learners are eligible to verified in order to receive those micro-credentials. During the learning process, we have a learning delivery quality control. This also is being done by the training providers within the ecosystem. Of course, assessment, it's a very important issue that there is assessment integrity is very crucial. So it's conducted by qualified assessors, or if it's automated, are heavily tested that are are not biased, etc. And then we have the credential data verification checking, where everything has been added to the micro-credentials metadata behind that. All the mandatory fields are accurate. And finally, we have the post-insurance monitoring that we can see also some analytics of how the micro-credentials issued and how it's being checked. And something to mention here, micro-credentials has also an expiration date, if we like. So that means it's not valid for infinity. Okay, let's move now to, we checked technology, we checked quality assurance. Now let's move to the next section, which is the transferability. Okay, so, and interoperability. For example, a credential issued by Portuguese vet center, but be comprehensive and credible in German construction company, a Spanish university, or a Greek professional engineering association. And this is, for me, the crucial point of micro-credentials in a European level. This is very crucial, because we know that one of the core elements of Europe is that we can move and work anywhere within Europe. So, and before and when we are talking about these levels of in vocational education and training and these specific skills, micro-credentials can help us to prove that, yes, we have these valid skills. Yeah. And of course, you can understand that this is not only for construction or for green skills, can be applied in any other sector, any other category of skills. So, we have yes, first we have the technical interoperability. Okay, this is about to exchange credential data seamlessly between different systems. Of course, this can be done because, as I mentioned before, the EDC credential is based on W3C. W3C is the World Wide Web Consortium, which is actually defines the standards for many things around of the World Wide Web. So, yes, this is compatible with verifiable credentials version 1.1. Support also Open Budgets 3.0. It's another system, and of course it supports the Europass EDC API, which is actually the most used in our case interoperability method. Someone can get a micro-credential added in his or her Europass, and then someone, if it comes to me as a potential employer, I can scan the QR code. It comes and says, yes, it's a valid credential. And then we have the semantic interoperability, which means that it's not only data technically exchanged, but also there is a meaning behind that. And this can be achieved by using the European Learning Model, ELM, which is described a learning course. Also, the ESCO skills taxonomy, which is common in every European country, available, every skill available, translated in in every European language plus I think Arabic and some other languages outside of European Union, and also the EQF levels. So that means that I give you an example. I have a skill to apply a specific product for building energy improvement, and then this describes a skill that I got it, for example, in Greece, and then if I go to Germany, this same skill will be described in German, and this same skill will be described in Portuguese or Spanish, etc. Okay, that's very important to have semantic interoperability. And finally, we have the legal interoperability. That means that this is not just a paper that's just something that I got it or I created online, but it's based on Lisbon Recognition Convention. Also, we plan to engage ENIC-NARIC networks, which is the European networks for qualifications recognition. It's a huge network all over Europe. And yes, we have the electronic seal that we seal all the micro-credentials. It's a prerequisite in order to issue micro-credentials and send it to the end user, need to be electronic sealed. Okay, so building on the interoperability, just to mention the standards we have used. As I said before, we used the W3C verifiable credentials version 1.1 and the Open Badges 3.0. And in educational and semantic frameworks, of course, we use the EQF. We know that Anna mentioned before in a slide, when someone is EQF level 4 or EQF level 3, we know now there is a standard that says, yes, this person has studied up to this level and can do things up to this level. Of course, we support the improvement of skills and going to higher EQF level. Then we have the ECTS. We know that ECTS, we are talking about vocational education and training, but there are a lot of initiatives applying ECTS. ECTS comes from European Credit Transfer System. So ECTS is being used also in VET courses and is being recognized. So yes, we have when we issue micro-credential, we can add the number of ECTS credits. Through the microball framework, remember the one I mentioned before, it recommends for every micro-credential 1 to 5 credits. It's up to us to decide how complex and how big skills areas covers this micro-credential. And of course, as I mentioned before, we have the ESCO skills taxonomy. We're using the same standard that everybody understands and have a common ground to describe and get talking about different skills. And finally, we have the cross-border recognition. We think that in construction sector, but also in every sector in European Union, it's important to have cross-border recognition. All green skills, all micro-credentials, as I said before, mapped to EQF, ECTS, and ESCO from the design stage. We are going to direct engage with ENIC-NARIC after finishing the pilot testing and have finalized everything. We are going to approach the ENIC-NARIC centers in all partner countries and present the Green Circle framework and we'll try to embed these in the national recognition procedures. And finally, working with industry advisory councils, we need to secure formal endorsements from key construction sector professional associations, because at the end of the day, the one who is going to hire and pay someone of this skill, it's an industry. industry is one of the main actors in this ecosystem. We have the learner, the earner, and the receiver of the micro-credentials. In between, everything, all of this magic I described is happening. But at the end of the day, there is someone who wants to verify and validate some skills in order to find a better job, to find a job, or to move in a different country or in a different sector. Okay, so we proposed a four-body governance structures to ensure credibility and sustainability of each ecosystem. In our case, we have a steering committee, which has a strategic direction and oversight. So there is a senior representative of all 11 consortium partners, chaired by the coordinators, by TecMinho. Its authority is to decide about strategic matters and appoints quality assurance board. Then we have the quality assurance board, where we have representatives from consortium, from the industry, for a quality assurance agency, and maybe one from the ENIC member from each country, in order to decide to take decisions about accreditation, credential approval, and dispute resolutions, etc. And then it's the Industry Advisor Council, which is actually representative from construction companies, association, unions, professional bodies. Is advisory only, but it's very important to have a formal input from them in order to see if we are up to date, if we are relevant for what they need. And then we have the Technical Operations Group, which is actually, as the title says, it's making the operational decisions and technical parameters, etc. Of course, in our case, this we don't use it because we decided within the project limits and budget to use the infrastructure from the European Commission. But if someone wants to establish a full ecosystem with their own software, own servers, this is important element of the governance. The five governance principles underpins the ecosystem in order to build long-term trust. Okay, we have legitimacy that comes from multi-stakeholder representation. We have accountability, that means that clear roles, documented decisions, and independent oversight. Transparency ensures all governance documents and quality reports are publicly available. Responsiveness allows us to adapt to evolving industry needs through regular reviews and stakeholder consultation. And finally, sustainability is key. We are planning for a permanent governance body with diversified funding beyond the Erasmus Plus project. Imagine that at November we finish that, but we need somehow to keep this alive. We need to find ways, and this is a challenge, but within this project we are already working on a sustainability plan. Okay, so let's go now to a very practical way, at a practical slide, how we do it actually. We need first thing is these three phases: preparation, issuance, delivery. In the preparation, we had to acquire an electronic seal compatible with EIDAS system from a trusted service provider. We understand that some of our partners had an issue, some technical issues, or sometimes it's very, very expensive to get this. We decided that for the partners that they don't have this e-seal, during the pilot phase, ACP, my organization, obtained an electronic seal and actually does the sealing of those micro-credentials. And when they send us, there is a way to send us the system, the files, and then we just seal that and send it automatically to the recipients. Of course, the next step is to register with an online credential builder, which is needs an EU login. You need to create your organization and also to credential templates. We did that, and we didn't face any significant issues there. It's very straightforward. Even it's huge. The whole system is asking for a lot of details. There is a room for improvement here. Second is that we can then when everything is ready, we say, okay, we finished the training. Those people can get this micro-credential. We upload those, and then we actually, in that case, if someone has e-seal, can do the e-sealing directly. Otherwise, download some special JSON file, send it to me. I'm doing the e-sealing, and send the credentials to the recipients, which is the phase 3. The credentials are being sent via email or is being automatically in the Europass wallet. And then the learners now has a digital wallet and can add this credential to any version of CV or can share it with someone. So someone, a potential employer, gets a QR code, scans it, and validate that this credential is valid or not. This is what we are going to, just an overview of what we're going to do next, which is the pilot testing of micro-credentials in WP5 across 5 countries. It's the courses. Each partner organizes 2 courses, one introductory, and the second one is more targeted to specific skills. You can see that we have diverse EQF levels, starting from 3, 4, 5 to 5 and 6. Okay, and of course also we have different delivery methods: online, face-to-face, fully online, face-to-face only, or blended. That means that the outcomes of the pilot testing will give us a lot of data to analyze what is works, where we had some issues, in order to finalize this quality assurance model. Conclusions: in order to have a robust ecosystem, we need to base in 4 main pillars: technology, quality assurance, transferability, interoperability, and governance. And this is my last slide, actually. How to do actually from blueprint to pilot. We have the technical setup, has been done already. We activate the governance bodies. We execute we're doing the pilot. And of course, as I said before, we evaluate and refine what we found out in theory, but in practice, most probably we missed something and we need to do some tweaks and some alterations. Thank you very much. I'm really happy to answer any questions. Of course, you can find the whole the full report in detail in our website, green-circle.eu. If you like, if you want to contact me directly, this is my email. And yes, I'm open for questions if someone wants to ask something.
Okay, George, we have another presentation, and with the late start, I think if we
don't
leave
mind. That's okay. That's okay.
all
Perfect.
questions. That's okay. So all questions in the chat. If you add more questions to the chat as we go through, if there's time at the end, we can do them at the end. Otherwise, I think we can move them to LinkedIn and hold the discussion there, or maybe answer them in blog posts so that we can still carry on chatting with you. Thank you. We're now going to move on to Anastasia Pouliou, who's going to tell us about micro-credentials for vet and labour market, zooming in on construction. That sounds fun. Over to you.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you. Yeah, very, very pleased to be with you. I don't know whether you would like also to make me a presenter, some of you, so that I can also share some slides. I will try in the meantime, but I think it should work if I'm also a presenter.
Yes, Anastasia, wait a minute. I think you are presenter. I have met you, so you're okay.
Perfect. Great, thank you. Does it work? Can you see the screen?
It's loading. Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Perfect. First of all, for me, I think it's the second time, right, Dan? I think we met also last time in another webinar, so I'm very happy to be with you. Of course, I will make some introductory slides for some participants that might not heard what we are doing from CEDEFOP, but also I was very listening attentively to Mr. Bekiaridis' presentation before, because also for me, it's interesting because we are exploring at CEDEFOP construction sector in particular, so I'm eager to see the concrete issues and the little mini-gritty elements on your process, the different things he mentioned. So I think it would be great if we can also keep the contact and the communication also after this webinar. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm working at CEDEFOP. CEDEFOP is the European Center for the Development of Vocational Training. We are based in Thessaloniki in Greece, and I've been leading this research on micro-credentials many years now, since 2019, actually before we had the European Council recommendation on the topic, which for me is a very important building block, let's say the basis behind a common definition of micro-credentials and all the standard elements that was mentioned before. Just a bit quick glimpse on what we were doing. As said, I already, let's say, launched a first study, a first research round of work back in 2020, 2023. And there, what I was trying a bit to understand better was how countries and representatives of member states in Europe understand, first and foremost, the term micro-credential, because I can tell you, even now in 2026, things are better. We know more than before, but the landscape still in some cases remains quite blurry, and the definition and the concept behind micro-credential is a bit tricky, and I can tell you why. But what we did, we established, let's say, an important strand of work, and I published three main research reports that you can access using CEDEFOP website and the concrete page on micro-credentials. So what we did is we tried to map, let's say, the views and let's say the information we got from representatives of employers, of policymakers, from ministries, employees, confederations, vet providers, even students. And then, as I said, we were trying to understand what is the topic about. I wanted to understand a bit the links on micro-credentials and qualification system. I was very, let's say, pleased to hear that the work you are doing in the Green Circle project, you try also to create links with the EQF levels, which is very important if we talk about micro-credentials within a formal education training system. But also the main issue and problem lies if you move away outside formal education training. This is where it's quite, let's say, broad landscape of types of credentials that exist that we are a bit losing what they talk about. But this first research of CEDEFOP tried to capture the formal context as much as possible. And also we talked about the added value of end users. Also, when we had the European Council recommendation live in 2022, what we did at CEDEFOP is I gave them lots of data from VET. So they created from European Commission a staff working document accompanying that Council recommendation. So any kind of information you would see being there in the actual document comes from us. So because quite a lot, I mean, there was a lot of discussion and debate mainly coming from higher education, academic education. So we were losing back at that point in time the whole essence on vet and labor market related training. Currently, we see, following the Council recommendation, that member states in Europe are trying to implement, let's say, enabling conditions. They even try to create legislative arrangements to integrate micro-credentials in their formal qualification system. This is a very important development because, as said, this is a kind of a recommendation that comes from at the European level. Countries are not obliged to do that, but slowly there is this, and we saw that happening also from CEDEFOP with the development national qualification frameworks, is that countries try to, let's say, be inspired the one from the other and try to support as much as possible the topic. Of course, that does not mean that we are currently at a stage where we can say that, yes, most micro-credentials in many European countries are already part of a formal qualification system. We see progress. I think around 14, 15 countries are already developing such arrangements, but again, we are not fully there yet. And what we currently do is we try to develop another study where I'm trying a bit to focus and zoom in more on labor market, on what is happening with concrete labor market sectors, and on understanding better micro-credentials outside formal education and training. And on that, you can see here there are 3 pillars, mainly I would like a bit to understand more what are the quality assurance arrangements behind and what are the recognition mechanisms that we can see also coming up with regards to the identified micro-credentials we have at the moment. What is really happening, we try to explore what is really happening on 2 sectors. One is the creative and cultures industry sector in Europe and also the construction sector. So I think the discussion today is very relevant. And last but not least, in 2027, I will try to create a new research report on the social inclusion role, because at the European level, and not only at the national level, we believe that micro-credentials can be an instrument to support disadvantaged end users, mainly the unemployed people, women, or people who have been outside employment, education, and training. I mean, all types. I mean, there's a whole, let's say, discussion on which is the disadvantage, let's say, target group we talk about, but still for that we are using CEDEFOP's ReferNet network, which is an important group of representatives of member states that are mainly in ministries, but not only, and they try to reply to a specific questionnaire I have created in place for that 3rd piece of our work. So as said, we try to monitor the implementation. Now, what I have been doing in this current strand of our work from 2025 onwards is that I created a kind of a typology. I know this graph is a bit small, but the whole idea behind is that if you can see this big, let's say, green circles here. So one thing is the public space. How do you understand micro-credentials, let's say, in the formal education training system? But currently, I'm very much interested in the other side, let's say not the supply side, but mainly the demand side. So, but this is, of course, a very, very complex task to understand types of micro-credentials that are offered outside the formal education training. And on that, I've tried to create a kind of a topology that you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 types of non-formal micro-credentials that I saw emerging. And again, here, what is important is who is issuing these types of micro-credentials, right? So mainly, we are actually talking about providers of formal programs. This is interesting. So if we go outside in the economy, I mean, and to understand how this diverse landscape of micro-credentials across Europe is actually being painted, being drawn, we can see that there are types of micro-credentials that are issued also by formal education training providers. It can be higher education, it can be University of Applied Sciences. We might even have partnerships and university alliances. But at the same time, we also have other types of certification. We have these professional competence certificates that are mainly, we see very much related to practical skills and knowledge that is required for specific occupations. We might be talking about international standard-based credentials. And let's say, I mean, if we talk about IT, for instance, it can be not only a credential that is linked to a specific qualification system, but credentials that might be issued by professional associations, even by industry bodies, but they are also used and issued based on international standards, and they can be, let's say, used across borders somehow. We also have the sector recognized credentials, which are very much linked and focused and relevant for the sector. I mean, here, you are more experts than me here on construction sector, but also similarly to the creative and cultural industry sector, where I saw specific types of credentials emerging within the sector. And also we might have employer issue credential, meaning the company itself acting as a provider. So not necessarily dealing with the education training provider, but the company directly trains the employer on the job. And in that decision of not recruiting and hiring another type of employee, but rather using the best of the potential of the current workforce, I mean, that's an interesting case for us also to see what type of training is offered, how it is issued, and what that would translate in terms of labor market outcomes. And of course, we have badges or digital types of credentials, which are not necessarily different from the taxonomy that we have here, but mainly what is very different is the format. Because at the end of the day, even if we talk about digital credential, and I like a lot the discussion by Mr. Bekiaridis before, the fact that we talk about EC, linking with the Europass, the DCI platform, all of these are very nice steps in the process. They are very much linked to the quality assurance part, but it is also related to the format, the type of the micro-credentials at the end of the day. But we at CEDEFOP, we try as a research, let's say, type of work, we also want to understand more about the content, the concrete knowledge, skills, and competencies that somebody would get. And again, it depends on who you are. Of course, what we have been doing in the first round of work in the current one is that we try to understand better what are the operational characteristics. We definitely are basing our empirical focus on the council recommendation, let's say standard elements, but not only, because now we know more than before. So I'm very much interested in what type of micro-credentials we talk about. We have to be very, very careful on what type of credential we talk about. Again, is it in the private let's say, is it issued for the private sphere? Does it come and does it have, let's say, future, and can it belong to an existing qualification framework? Can we see a link to a level? If yes, perfect. If not, still okay. We should be very careful not to try and regulate a lot and to harmonize types of micro-credentials, because we are losing the essence behind, right? We don't talk about formal qualifications here. We talk about complementary additional types of credentials that can serve for somebody's portfolio. So in that sense, yes, we can understand their characteristics, but it is very natural that we have very diverse types of credentials. Of course, here the workload and the notional workload is very important. You know, the hours of training and learning, and quite often I'm asked how many hours of training are good and sufficient enough to qualify for, let's say, for high quality micro-credentials. We at CEDEFOP cannot reply to that question, because that's upon the issuer to decide the nominal workload, the assessment process, right? The quality assurance arrangement, as you have been doing very well in the Green Circle project, but also the way these credentials can be accumulated and stacked to other types. Now, quality assurance. I mean, for us, quality assurance is a key element. And what we also try to understand for the micro-credentials we're exploring is the key features of existing, let's say, quality assurance systems that we might have in different countries. What is the assessment process in terms of having an external or internal quality assurance, let's say, process or a mechanism? What are the outcomes in terms of grading, in terms of the validity period? Again, what are the concrete actual benefits for the end users, and what are the additional features that we might have? And of course, this will be part of the research reports we will be producing this year and next year. Now, as we are discussing, and I'm going very quickly because time is running, the concrete tension between the supply-driven and the demand-driven credentials. For us, as said before, we have this concrete focus on these two sectors, right? And concretely on the construction sector with a focus on greening, and the CCI sector, as you can see. This idea and this, let's say, decision from CEDEFOP to go in and zoom in on these two sectors is not arbitrary, it's not accidental. It actually allows to understand better the specificities within those two sectors and the extent to which conclusions or observation we can have, also from your side, but also from our side as a European body, how transferable these conclusions can be, how useful they can be for other labor market sectors. I would like you also to reflect on that from the Green Circle project, because, and sorry, I'm also very critical because I listen attentively to the discussions, the presentations. If we talk about sustainability of pilot projects, for me, this is a key part. You have been a great work, but then how sustainable it can be? This is a key question. And if it can be, if it can manage to be, if not sustainable, at least inspiring for other projects that are going to start, that's already a success, you see. So for me, any type of example or success story I can have from these two sectors, that would be quite interesting, because we can also act as a dissemination body. We can also talk to countries in Europe and say, listen, here within the sector, we have these nice initiatives, but as long as they can be sustained, maintained in the future, this is very good also for follow-up actions on micro-credentials. Otherwise, they can be just remaining in the self, you know what I mean? So the concrete research questions we are asking on construction sector and on creative and cultural industries are the following. How can sector-specific micro-credentials provide targeted learning achievements or learning opportunities? I mean, for me, this is an interesting question, and this we will try to explore in our study. And I think the concrete results will come in 2027, because we are also now in a developing phase. So I'm very much interested to understand whether these types of micro-credentials are linked to sectoral skill strategies, to what level the credentials we talk about focus not only on occupation or job-specific learning outcomes, but mainly also on transversal skills and competencies. And then if we want to talk about that, that's another philosophical discussion, because we at the European level, we had developed a terminological model on what transversal skills and competencies are. So based on that rationale, I would like to identify concrete examples of micro-credentials and then zoom in and zoom out, as we said, as I'm saying in the title of my presentation. I want to understand better the specificities of those types of micro-credentials. Also, I would like to understand better how do stakeholders take into account when they're reviewing the content linked to the specific actual achievements of learners within the sector. For example, one thing is to issue a micro-credential, and then are we in a position to renew and review the content based on labor market needs? Does it actually link to the let's say performance level, let's say to what a learner is able to show at the end of the day in the real employment environment, you see? So there are different questions still to be asked. And the fourth question is important. To what extent these credentials, I mean, why do we talk about these credentials if they do not translate into something concretely? Are they used by employers in recruitment procedures, or are they there just because it's a fashionable thing to talk about nowadays, you see? So we need to see whether there are tangible advantages in the end. Of course, that these are not easy questions, and this is what we have to do. I think Mr. Bekiaridis very nicely also presented why construction sector, why it's important for us, again, and that was message present in every EU member state. For us, that was important way why we want to understand it better. Also, this scalability thing, that the skills developed in the construction industry, particularly those ones that are related to sustainable building practices or digital tools like building information model and health and safety. I mean, we want to see whether all these skills are relevant, not only within construction, but also in other sectors of the economy. This is important. We also heard before that it's a total of 5.6 million persons that are, I mean, 3% of the total workforce. So it's really, really useful for us. It's an evolving sector, mainly for the green and digital. And actually, from what I've seen from my research, is that it undergoes this digital transformation, introducing new digital tools for management and planning. I think I came across this building information modeling, BIM, which is currently a key trend in the sector and creates a demand for these new types of skills. And in terms of provision and pedagogy, we also saw that education and training in construction is often described as a relatively conservative one. So that reflects that the sector is strongly relying on established occupational pathways, practical training, but also traditional forms of certification, you know. And for us, that's also to understand, it's an opportunity to grasp the change. How, for example, if in construction we see a lot of use of subcontracting, if at the same time we see highly fragmented enterprise structure, I mean, all these elements that might be interesting for us also to understand in terms of upscaling. I'm going quickly. And yeah, also this focus on transversal skills and competencies. The other need we have is because there's a lot of institutional social dialogue that is well established through trade unions, and the fact that is quite diverse, as we said, diverse workforce, including skills mechanism, engineers, architects, project managers, all of these require different skills and certifications. Quite a lot of high share of migrant workers, but also what is interesting is that I saw also from the research I was doing that there's this growing role of what may be described as soft regulation, although the number of occupation in construction sector formally requires state-regulated professional licenses, still that might remain a bit limited. So the sector in itself relies a lot on indirect regulatory mechanisms, from what I've seen, which is very much linked to procurement or contractual requirements. So in that sense, it is worth exploring more on what is happening. Now, some interim findings. We did this exercise where we had like a survey, an extensive survey, let's say questionnaire we had to ask, and also this extensive desk research on construction sector. And we did this kind of analysis where we have examples of micro-credentials that we call literal. I mean, we might change that word. I mean, the ones that are very much linked to the definition on the council recommendation of the topic. And we also saw the emergence of other types of micro-credentials in the broader sense that we call as potential, let's say. And these are examples of certification that is already there and that reflects the spirit of the recommendation, but is not, let's say, treated as such. So our initial findings show that certification practices in this sector remain informal and highly practice-oriented. We also saw that the distribution of micro-credentials across member states is highly uneven. We have, for example, a small number of countries such as Spain or Ireland that already demonstrate some relatively high activity in the area, with some, for example, technical universities offering micro-credential programs related to construction. But we might have other examples that appear to be at a much earlier stage of development, as we see now that we have these EU-funded pilot projects like yours or other ones. And in some member states like Hungary and Greece, we have some examples of micro-credentials already present within a policy discussion, but no substantial construction-related offer was available at the time of our research. And also Croatia was the only country in our case that was identified in which explicitly micro-credential called as such in the construction sector was found to be there, but also that was outside, let's say, the formal, the higher education system. So as said, we have examples, but they are rarely interconnected and they appear to be at an earlier stage of development. We also saw that quite a lot activity happening, as said, from the higher education sector, and the term in itself is not common. I don't know about you, but I think it's not that common, and there's a variety of short programs that mainly that is evident. Also, that's a very new, fresh information that comes from us, is that these types of micro-credentials we have identified are issued by providers of formal education programs. We also saw that the sector recognized credentials are very important. They represent an important category, particularly in the case of international organizations issuing certifications that are recognized across multiple countries. But of course, again, here, as you remember, the typology we had in the beginning of the slide is that the distinction between professional competence certificates and sector recognized one is not always clear cut, to be honest with you. Yeah, employer issued micro-credentials, as I said, the ones coming concretely from the industry, they're a bit at the moment difficult to identify because we have many construction companies that operate with internal training schemes, but employers themselves relatively rarely provide formalized certification the way we would think about for these types of activities. So you see, for us, it's a thing we need to still to cover and understand more. And I mean, learning outcomes for me is a key important lens that I'm using because we have been doing a lot of work on understanding what types of learning outcomes we can identify in these types of credentials. And we mainly see program descriptions. So let's say the more content part, like a broader thematic content, rather than what I showed you before in the research questions when I'm interested to see if it's a job occupation specific skills and competencies, transversal ones, or what exactly we can see in terms of learning outcomes achieved. And last on that one is that the largest share that we have identified mainly, I mean, at least from the first initial examples, is mainly focusing on these job-oriented occupation specific ones rather than other types of skills and competencies I would be interested in. Yeah, of course, I mean, that was just a short glimpse, but the idea is that I mean, there's a vision, right? We talked about, and I think Anna mentioned that before, it's like an ecosystem. There's a lot of processes happening. And yeah, but for this vision to become more operational, there are concrete action areas that need to be considered. First and foremost, it's transparency. I mean, whatever types of microcredits are going to be issued, they have to be transparent. They have to engage end user in order to be able to pursue those. But in order for this to happen, I mean, you need a lot of information awareness. You need a lot of guidance in that sense. At the European level, there are all these ESF-funded projects that are in place, and funding is an important element. But still, I think that yeah, there are strengths and weaknesses. But in order for these types of credentials to be trusted, you need all these types of building blocks that I keep on mentioning in different webinars that I talk about the topic. You need concrete metadata. You need to identify these types of credentials, and you need to somehow link them with skills intelligence mechanisms in order to be able to, not to compare, but somehow to understand better at a horizontal level what is really happening. We need to see whether the providers are trusted and credible. What are the concrete quality assurance mechanisms in place? Any potential for career guidance mechanisms to develop, because what we see is that for end users, this is quite a blurry landscape. So they need to know which are the good quality assurance micro-credentials. As you see in the slide, I talk about the weakness, and one of those is this confusion that it still remains in the 2026 on where are these quality assured micro-credentials in place. And of course, recognition is a key challenge at the moment that we talk about with the Skills Portability Initiative and the Union of Skills. I mean, how can you really transfer it, as it was mentioned before, across borders? I mean, micro-credentials are nice. They are, okay, learning evolution, but they cannot be a golden solution to the problem, right? They can be a key enabler of lifelong learning, of workforce adaptability. They can definitely empower learners, workers, and employers. But I can say that if we talk about micro-credentials in the construction sector, I mean, we need a lot of empirical analysis. Yeah, and especially if we talk about non-formal micro-credentials, that they can serve as a complementary to an existing system that is already working. And because the micro-credentials tend to focus on emerging topics that are not yet fully covered through traditional education pathways, that's a good thing. But then if we talk about sustainable construction, which creates a big demand for specific skills related to decarbonization of buildings, to energy efficiency, using more sustainable materials and technologies. I mean, these are developing areas, and I think we still need some time, time for these credentials to really show their potential in that sense. These are the publications we have already produced on the topic. These are, you can really access those in the CEDEFOP web page, and I've also published, besides these 3 research reports, 2 briefing notes, 3 podcasts on the topic, and we are also preparing a very important virtual get-together, and I would like to invite all of you, Anna, colleagues, and Anastasia and George, and of course all the team here. Please try and register via accessing the CEDEFOP webpage, and I will share my slides with the organizers of this event here. It's a very short event, 1 hour and a half, like yours, but it will give you more insights on these concrete empirical work we are doing, not only in construction, but also with the creative and cultural centers. It's interesting for you to see what we have been exploring. And you can find me on LinkedIn as well. We'll be happy to continue the exchange, and by email using the CEDEFOP email account. I would be happy to reply and to any kind of questions. I don't know with time, but I will stop presenting. Hopefully it will work. Yes, it did. And hoping I didn't tire you a lot. It was a quick round. I see some thumbs up. That's nice.
Brilliant. Thank you very, very much. We are just exactly on 4 o'clock CET, so we should finish there. But I will gather any questions that have been asked in the chat and share them, and we can put our answers on LinkedIn and keep on the conversation that way.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Anastasia. It was a great presentation. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, George, also for the interesting presentation. Yeah. And let's keep the exchange. I think it's, you see, it's evolving also from our side, but just to tell you that from our side, from CEDEFOP, we are capturing the Green Circle project as a nice initiative, a very interesting and useful one. We will have it in our research report. So I think it's important to stay connected, and and let's continue this exchange in that sense.
We will, Anastasia. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks all.
We are leaving. What is now? Or there are some questions on the chat.
Yeah, so because it's already 4 o'clock and we only had the hour and a half, we said we'd take the questions into LinkedIn and put them as posts there so we can answer them that way.
Okay then.
Okay, maybe though if someone has something Angela can ask, I think we can have 5 minutes for questions. It's nice and also we can have a wrap up in the LinkedIn. If you agree, all of you, because we have also George and Anastasia here. It's nice for the speakers. I have a question actually for Anastasia. Since in micro-credentials we want to explore other also webinars about micro-credentials and general themes about that. what do you consider as a CEDEFOP expert in this field that it would gather innovation in order to pinpoint on behalf of micro-credentials? So today we have quality assurance, but we also want to organize other type of webinars and workshops in the future, in the next months. So just a question about this.
Yeah, of course. I mean, for me, I said this, and with this presentation, I also showed you the complexity of the topic. There are many topics. If this is the question, I mean, first of all, in terms of webinars, I've been bombarded also myself, and I post in LinkedIn all the time whenever I participate. Different things happening. So, like, I think LinkedIn, in terms of dissemination, is a very important and dynamic tool because I also hear a lot on what is happening. Then we can exchange with the research, broader research community on what is happening. There are a lot of pilot projects, Erasmus Plus projects that we also get a lot of invitations and email information on that. But and I also see a lot of activity taking place at the national member state level. You see, like, for example, we have representatives of the ministries when they are going to discuss, when they are going to develop, let's say, a legislative arrangement, regulatory document, how to integrate micro-credentials in their qualification system. They also try to create kind of webinars in that sense. One thing is related to the actual theme part. Quality assurance is key element, and also the recognition aspect. Cross-border recognition for sure, and also the fact that, again, for me, the basic challenge is, again, understand better where these micro-credentials can be placed within the education labor market ecosystem overall, because this is linked to stackability and accumulation of micro-credentials. So, for example, if I'm an end user and then I can follow a formal program of a shorter duration, then does that translate for me an exemption from a formal course? And then is it recognized, and will it give me the opportunity to progress in education ladder, or am I going to use that micro-credential to progress in employment journey? So I think there are different themes and topics that somebody can talk about. I said also quality assurance recognition, also the social inclusion part. This is a key discussion, and also we have been engaging on social inclusion more broadly with international bodies like UNESCO, the OECD, the ETF, the European Training Foundation in Italy, which is our sister agency. And we talk about using this more social function role, like it's really, so it's not only the actual training and learning, but also how you can use it to re-enter, re-engage yourself with current practices. So in terms of themes and topics, because I think it was also in the chat, I mean, there are different thematical areas we can talk about, the interoperability aspect, the links with the Europass. I think Mr. Bekiaridis covered that in terms of using the European learning model, the seal and all of that. This is another aspect, the interoperability component. But yeah, I think seeing already what is really happening with other sectors and all of these aspects is key, Aspasia. I don't know if I replied, but yeah, on the creative and cultures industry, I know that in Brussels, there will be this creative and culture skills week, a whole of week with the first, I think it's the first week of September, a lot of activity taking place in that sector from that side. So if any of you are in Brussels, you can also attend to that. And yeah, but from my side, I will be posting in LinkedIn also. Things happening. I'm very active. So I think we can, especially we can stay in touch and you can see.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. I'll leave the floor to Angela. Just a question.
Can I add something here,
Yes.
Anastasia? Yeah,
Yes.
I think there are two main directions here. One is, of course, the public sector, the regulations, the formal education system. But for me, the crucial point in this is the involvement of the industry.
Yes.
And I can see now, because AI is another research area that I'm working a lot. I can see now internationally, because there is a strong demand of AI engineers and developers, that there are a lot of micro-credential courses that is being recognized by the industry, is being funded, and is being recognized. So I think we need, and for sure for the sustainability of the whole system, because we cannot get indefinitely funding from somewhere or for a project. We need to involve the industry. The industry plays a crucial role here.
Yes.
in order to ensure the sustainability and the funding of such processes, because at the end of the day, beneficiary also is the industry, can find skilled workers with more relevant skills. Yeah, this
Very
is
very valid, George. And if I may, sorry for taking up a bit more time. For me, I mean, and we were saying that in the first round of our work, George, is that and I was also saying it in one of my podcasts, that micro-credentials are industry-led. They come, I totally agree with you, from the need of the industry, right? To, let's say, to shake the terrain, to not threaten, but rather shake the traditional formal qualification provision that was taking place all the years. Yes, perfectly so. But the issue is that industry and the company, the industry representatives need to be convinced of the benefit and the added value. For sure, they are the ones that are the actual recipients of the they would have like a more agile and upskilled workforce. But since they will be involved in terms of training provision, I said they need to see the concrete outcomes of that work. Now, the issue is that if we manage to involve the industry as a partner with a discussion with the formal education training body, that's a real success, because then you might have the public and the government state funding. So it's not only the industry, the private ones, but also them. And especially, I really believe that because if I read very carefully the council recommendation on the topic, the whole idea of linking micro-credentials with an NQF level and the AQF, this is a huge step ahead, because imagine if they enter the formal qualification system, then the public sector needs to somehow support it. So it's a kind of a win-win situation, honestly. It can even act as an important voice between the two worlds. But of course, ideally, said so in practice, we know all the challenges, the difficulties. Let's see, I have the impression now with the Skills Portability Initiative that there might be a voice coming from the European level that this council recommendation, we have a more normative role, that meaning that we might hear, this very informal from European level side, that member states are not only recommended to integrate those credentials in their formal system, but at the same they will be asked a bit more formally to do so. But if I can sense it happening, to be honest, because I engage a lot with European Commission representatives. If this is the case, then we cannot just leave it aside. We have to. And in that sense, industry is the key player in the game. You have to involve the industry. They have to co-design the programs, the curricula even.
Exactly.
I mean, otherwise it doesn't work. But let's see. I'm also curious to see the debate.
Let's hope, yeah.
Okay.
I love the fact that today's webinar is dominated by Greeks, and you can understand
I can see that.
the English with a Greek accent. Of course, we have Angela, who was a native speaker, but then you have Greeks English with a Greek accent.
Yeah. A lot of the questions come from the Greek audience as well. So.
Yeah.
Oh, shall we round up there then?
Yeah, because I also have another meeting. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been really fascinating. It's a really useful event. Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll add the recording to our website. We'll put it out as a blog post. We'll add all of the presentations, and we'll follow up the questions that we haven't answered in the chat over on LinkedIn and as blog posts too. Thank you very much. See you soon.